This is a special Walker Cup episode. The Back of the Range Golf Podcast will introduce you to the finest amateur golfers in the United States. Some have competed in major championships, others have won USGA titles, and many have been named All-Americans. The one thing they all have in common? They all want to be one of 10 men chosen to represent their country at the 47th Walker Cup matches at Royal Liverpool Golf Club. This is the Road to Hoylake, presented by AmateurGolf.com. And now your host, Ben Adelberg.
Welcome back to the Road to Hoylake, presented by AmateurGolf.com. I'm your host, Ben Adelberg. Well, the United States Amateur Championship is complete. We have a new champion, and the 2019 Walker Cup teams are set and finalized. Congrats to Andy Ogletree and John Augenstein for their incredible performance in the championship match at Pinehurst. You'd have to think that Ogletree doesn't get on that team unless he wins the match. Solid player out of Georgia Tech, but ranked outside the top 100 in the world. Augenstein was definitely on the bubble, but defeating two top 10 players in the world in the same day in Akshay Bhatia and Ricky Castillo, well, it became clear right then and there that the USGA was definitely going to put Augenstein on the team. Before we get to this final episode focusing on the players on this year's squad, we do have some more episodes on the way highlighting some former U.S. Walker Cuppers. Do not miss these episodes. They're absolutely incredible. Before we get to the final episode of this series, I really need to take some time to thank the great people at AmateurGolf.com for all of their support of this podcast of the last few weeks. It all started when we had their founder, Pete Litkowski, on during episode 82. Right then and there, we decided to collaborate and create the Road to Hoylake series. It's been a lot of fun. So don't forget, go check out AmateurGolf.com. There's a code, BOTR, that'll get you 90 days free access to the entire website. Make sure you take advantage of that. Special thanks to Kyle Rector and Julie Williams, of course, for their involvement in this series. So in our final episode of the Road to Hoylake, we wrap up with one of the members of the National Championship Stanford Cardinal team, Brandon Wu, and the number one ranked amateur in the world from the University of Texas, Cole Hammer. Other than Ogletree, I don't think anyone is having a better summer than Brandon Wu. He wrapped up his senior season at Stanford with the National Championship, plays in the U.S. Open, qualifies for the Open Championship, picks up a gold medal with Stuart Hagestad at the Pan American Games, gets a Korn Ferry Tour sponsor invite out in California, and now he's headed to Hoylake to represent his country one last time as an amateur before he turns pro. I also caught up with Cole Hammer. Heading into his sophomore season at the University of Texas, they were the runner-ups to Stanford right there at the National Championship. Cole is just one of the most polished amateurs in the game. You first saw him as a 15-year-old in the U.S. Open at Chambers Bay. He won the Western Amateur last year, didn't make match play at the USAM, but he's going to be a very strong player over at Royal Liverpool representing the United States. Before we get to Brandon and Cole, don't forget to subscribe in Apple Podcast and Spotify. We're going to get back on track with our usual episodes starting next week. All of the social media links are available at thebackoftherange.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We're always giving away things. We're always looking for participation from our listeners, so please get involved in our conversations. Before we get to our conversations with Brandon and Cole, let's welcome back in one last time Julie Williams, managing editor at AmateurGolf.com, to share her thoughts and experiences from the U.S. Amateur. Julie, it's our last episode in the series.
That went so fast.
You spent the entire week, so to speak, at Pinehurst, and you're there following all these matches, and we have a new U.S. Amateur champion, Andy Ogletree, with, I guess that's the upset over Augenstein?
The longer and longer the week went, definitely John Augenstein was the more heralded player in the final match, no question about it. But the more and more golf that I saw Andy Ogletree play, the less I felt like this kid was just on a streak for 1 week, and the more I felt like we've overlooked this kid. We just didn't realize. I think he has worked his butt off and put the time into the right things, and he was getting good direction from Coach Hepler at Georgia Tech. And I think there is more longevity there than maybe a lot of people give him credit for.
Well, he comes into the USAM basically as the 120th ranked amateur in the world. Yeah, I mean, he's solid. He's a solid ACC player out of Georgia Tech. But again, there's so many guys like that all around the country in all sorts of storied college programs, and it's so easy to overlook him. And plus, just by watching the coverage and you being there on site, not probably the flashiest guy out there.
Oh, absolutely not. Very, very low key. Very much sticks to himself, doesn't get excited. I mean, I think I saw the kid smile like twice this week, and one of the times he was holding the trophy.
Of course.
So he does not, and he's that's what he's known for on the Georgia Tech roster. The guys tell him he has a negative blood pressure, so
yeah.
Well, that's him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now he has a whole lot of things next to his name. He's a U.S. amateur champion. He's going to be on the first tee and the second. He's got 2 tee times with Tiger Woods in the Masters next year if he stays an amateur and they extend him the invitation, which of course they will. He's in the Open. He's in the British Open. And then, yeah, he's on the road to Hoylake, so to speak. He is on the Walker Cup team. So we have our team set. And, it was nice to see that of the 14 people that we spoke with for this series, 8 of them will be on the team. And really, the 2 we just didn't get a chance to talk to are the 2 that were in the final match, John Augenstein and Andy Ogletree.
Well, I mean, both of those guys. Andy, obviously, he was the guy who, the last week got him on the team.
Oh, of course.
Absolutely, obviously. But, John, I think John needed to have a good week because I think everybody kind of knew in the back of their heads what kind of head-to-head play John Augenstein was capable of, but they just needed to see it again, and he showed it. I mean, talk about somebody who was steady, relentless, just no holes in that game, saying all the right things, doing all the right things. He 100% deserved to be on that team.
I kind of agree. I think what I saw at the Western and what I kind of saw at the Amateur is, we talked about how not a lot of the guys made match play at the Western, and then it seemed like all of our guys, when I say our guys, all of the guys on the short list made match play, which was, I think it was 10 out of the 14 made match play. Cole Hammer didn't, and there were a couple other ones. William Mao didn't, but they all made match play, so that kind of helped their case, but also didn't differentiate themselves from one another. So really the only one that made a huge, massive move was Augenstein, and he ends up getting the pick. And, now we have, the entire team. We have, Hammer, we have Batia, Hagestad. I thought John Pock was very deserving. Smalley, back-to-back Sonny Hanna champion. And then you go with, Wu and Celinda out of Stanford. That's not a shock at all. And then Fisk out of Georgia Southern. And then, like we just said, Augenstein and Andy Ogletree. So we have a very solid team. It's going to be really exciting to see what they do over there at Hoylake. Our final episode, we kind of saved these 2 guys for the very end because, Cole Hammer was a lock on July 24th. And right up until the second week, Brandon Wu had the 3rd spot, and then the Wagger rankings kind of shuffled a bit, and Hagestad grabbed the number 3 spot away from Wu. But boy, you want to talk about just like a 3A and a 3B. That's, I think Brandon Wu was probably the lock outside of those top 3 the entire summer after what he did. So we're gonna introduce.
I agree.
Yeah, so we're gonna reintroduce Cole Hammer and Brandon Wu to everyone in this episode. And tell me a little bit about, just in your many years with AmateurGolf.com, you've had interactions with these guys. Give me a good Cole Hammer and Brandon Wu story. We don't probably need to introduce them to listeners, but give me a good Cole and a good Cole Hammer and Brandon Wu story if you have one.
Well, I think like most people got on the Cole Hammer bandwagon. I'll admit it, I'm on the Cole Hammer bandwagon after he won the Western Amateur last year, and spoke to him in the wake of that victory. I was just really impressed with. He was an incoming freshman at Texas. I wasn't at the Western, so this wasn't me watching him do this in person. But the level of golf talk that we engaged in, mostly coming from Cole Hammer, I mean, it's interesting to listen to him talk about what he's thinking about on the course. We're talking about the shot shaping, that he's hitting, talking about, what his mindset is on the golf course. And so then my ears sort of started to perk up anytime I see somebody put a microphone in front of him. I am just really impressed by the amount of stuff that's going on in his head, not to his detriment, but he's thinking things through. And the way he can talk about his game, and he's very composed. You don't see that a lot. I mean, many of these guys are very well spoken, and many of these guys are very well versed in front of cameras and with a microphone in their face. You could probably thank the AJGA for that.
Of course,
Cole Hammer is just a little bit different. So he's a thinker. He's an intellectual, I would say. So I like that aspect of him. I like listening. I just like listening to him talk about his golf game. Brandon Wu is comes out of this summer just looking sort of superhuman. But I have to say, Brandon Wu got the number 1 seed at the U.S. Amateur after helping the U.S. team win the gold medal at the Pan American Games, took an overnight flight, got into Pinehurst the morning of the first round of stroke play, got to take a couple-hour nap, and then go out and start playing. And when I was watching him and Austin Squires coming down 17 and 18 in that first-round match, he looked a little gassed, I will say.
Oh, yeah.
We looked tired. So I think, it's incredible what he has done this summer. I don't think, he held off, obviously, to remain an amateur so he can make this team. And sometimes I think that's a big sacrifice for some of these guys. I think he got some excellent experience. I think this played out exactly, as it should have for him. And I think this will help him in the future. But, he qualifies for the Open, and he plays the weekend, and then he qualifies for the British Open. And then he comes back over here, and then he's going to Lima, Peru for the Pan American Games. It comes right back to the U.S. Amateur, shoots a course record on Pinehurst number 4. And I really just think he ran out of steam. But I think with a little bit of rest, he's going to put on the show that he has the rest of the summer as soon as he gets to Hoylake.
Well, Julie, I do appreciate your insight on Cole Hammer and Brandon Wu, and of all the guests that we've had each episode here at the Road to Hoylake series. You've been absolutely fantastic. Hope we can do it again in 2021 when the Walker Cup is here in the United States at Seminole. Thanks for contributing the entire time here at the Road to Hoylake series, and we'll catch up later.
Sounds great. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Julie, for the insight. Appreciate your involvement in this series the entire way. Let's get to our conversation with Brandon and Cole. Brandon, welcome back to the Back of the Range. How are you?
Great. Thank you for having me once again.
Absolutely. Well, the last time we spoke, you and your teammate, Isaiah Salinda, I think you're in the same dorm room, just kind of talking about your final senior season. And I guess truthfully at the time, it was kind of in a lull. Things were not going super, I guess, for the team at that point. You had a couple off tournaments. So I'm going to walk you back. February, you played a tournament in Hawaii. You finished 13th out of 18th.
Mm-hmm.
49 strokes behind Oklahoma State, who ended up winning the tournament. Sorry to bring up these numbers, but talk to me about you had a 5.5-hour flight back from Hawaii to San Francisco. Tell me about that flight, if you can remember it.
I think, honestly, after we had quite a disappointing fall. I'm sure we touched on that a little bit last time, but, so we were hoping to, get things started once again, looking forward to Hawaii tournament and getting 2019 off to a good start. And then, we come out kind of slow once again. And, it felt kind of tough, it's like, wow, we had all off season to kind of fix what went wrong in the fall. And then we came out a little flat once again in Hawaii. But I felt like we were still in a good spot. We still believed in each other. We had the Palm Springs tournament coming up, which was, the whole team gets to go and you play 2 teams, and we played the course 3 times before already. So, we're feeling good going to that. But that was kind of the mindset at that point.
Yeah. And so you're referring to, I think, the Prestige at La Quinta. You guys had your T6 there. Then you went to Vegas, picked up a 3rd place finish. And then everything changed just by looking at what happened. I mean, this is your senior season. This is the last hurrah, so to speak.
Yeah.
And you guys absolutely run the table. You do not lose again. You win your home tournament, the good win. You win the Western Intercollegiate. I believe that's the one that Isaiah won as an individual.
Yeah.
Pac-12 conference champions, NCAA regional champions, and then you roll through the national championship and pick up that win. Did you see any of that? Did you honestly see any of that coming?
I think we knew we could do it, but we just needed to, actually go out and do it. I think the biggest turning point in the season was definitely the Vegas tournament, just because that's notoriously one of the toughest fields in the whole country over the course of the college season. And, before that week, I think I sat down with one of my teammates, Henry Shimp, and, we were below 500 at that point. So, it was kind of a tough spot going into Vegas. We're just below 500. We're hosting regionals this year, and we might not even qualify if we don't play well the rest, which would be a huge bummer, And but yeah, we go out, we play really well. Unfortunately, we didn't win, but finishing third in a field like that with, I think we were in the final pairing the last day too. So that definitely gave us a lot of confidence going, back to Stanford to play in the good win in our home tournament over spring break. So, and then that's kind of when the ball started to get rolling.
I got a question for you. When you talk about, hey, we got to get things together, we got to right the ship and fix the ship, like maybe other sports, you spend more time in the gym, or you go over the playbook a little bit more. You do different things like that. What is it that you do to right the ship in college golf?
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting because you can do your things, but it may or may not work.
Right.
You may or may not see the results. But I think for me personally, I was just focusing on some of the smaller stuff. So it's like, and then, I think also something just getting your mind right. You could be in the mindset of, oh no, like we're really struggling. I wanted my senior year to go and this all sucks. Or you can be like, let's stay positive. And let's just keep going, keep working hard, and hopefully good things will happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So moving on to the national championship, both you and Isaiah actually went undefeated in your matches, going up against Wake Forest in the quarters, Vandy in the semis, and then obviously Texas in the finals. You're going to see a lot of these guys. I know that you're right there on the cusp of getting selected for the Walker Cup team. I believe we just recently had Cole Hammer, Hagestad, and Akshay selected as automatic picks. You're literally just 1 or 2 points right behind the automatic selection. So looking good for that trip to Hoylake. What are maybe some of the things that you learned about yourself in match play that you hope to translate to the future?
Yeah, I felt that I definitely was good at applying pressure during the matches. It helps to be a good putter, I feel like, because then you're never really out of the hole, and you can really change the momentum when you're a good putter. And then I know for my matches in the national championship, I hit a lot of greens in regulation. I think in that championship match I played against Pearson Cootie, but I didn't miss a green. So I think when you're playing an opponent that hasn't really made that many mistakes, then it kind of just starts to wear down.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. You're never really out of a hole until if your putter's hot, you can pretty much get away with anything you want to. So moving past college, moving past that, you've got to do so many great things. You're playing the playing the U.S. Open, played in the Open Championship. I'm sure you're aware, maybe you're not, but first amateur to open qualify for both of those events in the same year since 1967. A lot of people saw the pictures after you made the cut, after your final round at Pebble Beach. You got awarded your diploma from Stanford. So I remember when we spoke previously, Stanford and graduating, huge deal. You definitely were going to stay your 4 years and get your degree. So I have to ask you, maybe some other people would be like, yeah, I'm busy playing golf. Just put the diploma in the mail, and whenever I get it, I get it. Were you pretty bummed missing your graduation ceremony?
Yeah, I think, I guess the way that I've looked at it now, since I can't go back and attend the graduation, the graduation ceremony is kind of just an event that culminates your 4 years. But, what's lasting and that I didn't miss is the 4 years of experience of actually going to school with my classmates and my friend teammates. So, obviously a little bit bummed to miss the ceremony celebrating it, but I think importantly I got to experience the whole thing.
So, so let me ask you: did you know you were going to get awarded the diploma on the 18th green?
I'd heard whispers about it earlier in the week. The guy I was staying with, this guy Sam Reeves, who's the grandfather of one of my good buddies, Jamie McFarland, at Stanford. He knew a bunch of the USGA people, and he, heard my story when I was telling it earlier in the week. I was like, yeah, like if I make the cut this week, I'm gonna miss my college graduation. But he ended up taking care of it, kept it a whole surprise, and yeah, it was awesome.
So I would imagine people were very interested, and maybe you were interested when the final round tee times come out to see that you're playing with Dustin Johnson. It's so much is made of the game as a power game and a bomber, and how distance is kind of taking over the next level, which is, I know, where you want to be, the PGA Tour. Anything about maybe his game that surprised you, or anything about maybe just the moment saying like, hey, I can hit it just as far as these guys, and I'm going to be out here at some point, and this is where I belong?
Yeah, I guess there are a couple moments that stood out from that day. I remember being on the first fairway. I just gotten my ball, and he had already hit his shot, and I was like, wow, like I couldn't believe how fast he was. And suddenly I like panicked for a sec. I was like, oh God, like I need to get it together. And then I felt like for most of the day, I hit my driver almost as far as him. Like he hit a little bit farther, and I think he was toning it back. And he definitely hit his irons probably a club farther. But for the most part, I felt like I was keeping up with him. But there's a distinct moment on the 9th hole where he teed off in front of me, and he just striped his drive right down the middle of the fairway, like perfect, high, dead straight on a rope. And I laughed to myself because I knew it didn't matter how good I hit this next one. It just was not going to look as good.
Nice. So you go over and play the Open Championship at Port Rush, and I guess then you've had other times when you're over in I mean, you had basically a world tour. You got to spend time in Scotland playing the old course. You got to play, obviously Open qualifying for that. Actually, I didn't tell you, but David Williams, your caddy, for the Open qualifying for Port Rush. I've actually known him for quite a while and have met him in St. Andrews and played some golf with him. Wow. So that was pretty cool to see.
Oh yeah. That was, yeah. He was great on the bag.
Yeah. What about links golf did you enjoy? And obviously, leading up to future events as an amateur, but what are some of the things about links golf that you think suits you?
I think it's interesting because you can almost be more creative out there. You have to, factor in the wind, how far the ball's rolling off your tee shots and into the greens. And you kind of have to play. It's almost not necessarily not short-siding yourself all of a sudden. It's like leaving yourself with a chip into the wind, which will be easier, even if it's on a shorter side than downwind. So it's, some different things to think about for sure. I think there's, maybe a little bit more going on just based on the conditions. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. The courses are all stunning out there. And it's just kind of fun to play that style a little bit.
You got to do Pebble Beach for the U.S. Open and then Port Rush for the Open Championship. As far as maybe reception, probably hard to compare being in California and going to college in California, then going over to Ireland. But for people that weren't there, can you give maybe just an example or just an idea of what that Open Championship was like over there in Ireland for the first time since, like, obviously 1951? How crazy were the fans for championship golf over there?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd heard the tournament had been sold out for almost a year, like just ridiculous stats leading up to it. But it really set in on how impressive it all was when I got up for my tee time at, I think it was like 7:07 Thursday morning, and it was cold, a little rainy, but the stands were basically filled, and I was quite impressed.
Obviously, Port Rush for the Open. I did see a picture that you played the old course. You played North Berwick. What other courses did you play over in Scotland? For people that want to go on golf trips, I mean, hey, you're a golf junkie just like the rest of us. What places are you like, man, I got to go back to that place, or I need to plan a trip with some of my boys?
Yeah, I guess another one or two others that really stood out were Muirfield and Royal County Down.
Okay.
So I got to play Muirfield twice. So on the trip for the qualifier, we played 36 holes of alternate shot, which was quite fun.
Okay.
So I think they only allow 2 balls per group. So
right.
what happens, most of the members, they just go out and play foursomes in the morning, come back, shower, get dressed up in a coat and tie, and have a lunch for a couple hours, and then go back out and play 36 or 18 more holes of foursomes. So
that is the way to do it at Muirfield, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an awesome experience, and I would highly recommend it if any of you guys got the chance to do it. And then Royal County Down was also stunning. We caught it on a perfect day. It was just not too much wind, sunny out, warm. So yeah, that was definitely a treat.
Well, you're hitting some of the good courses that I think everyone that wants to, if they plan a trip over to the UK, to Scotland or Ireland, I mean, you've had your fair share of places to play. So this has kind of been a pretty magical summer for you, and it sure is. It's definitely not over with. Final thing, let's tell the story, because I got this great picture of you with 2 previous guests of the podcast, Kevin and Alexa Hammer. I don't have the episode numbers off the top of my head, but they are previous guests on the podcast, and I got this great picture of you guys playing North Berwick. And I hate to throw you under the bus, but I hear that you lost that match on the 18th hole. How did that happen?
Yeah, it was a tight match all day, and so it was me, Kevin, Alexa, and our mutual friend Simon Holt, who's a member at North Berwick and from the town. So basically, we were coming down the stretch. Actually, funny story, on 16, I think we were 1 down, but Simon and Alexa win the hole, and Simon takes off his hat and shakes our hands, and he's like, good match, whatever. And we're all a little confused, me and Kevin especially, because we're 2 down with 2 to play. Like, match is still alive.
Yeah.
But he soon on the tee, he realizes his mistake. He's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." Like, not whatever. We'll keep going. He's mortified. He's telling me walking down the fairway. He's like, "Oh man, I really screwed that up." But no, it's great. So I think we won 17, but we get to 18, which is a drivable par 4.
Yeah.
And me and Kevin tee off first. I hit the left side of the green. I think Kevin is just short of the green. Simon sends one towards the houses, is yelling 4 as his ball almost.
I have played North Berwick. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I guess, and not to cut you off, but just to give people an idea of what it looks like. It kind of looks a little bit like a mini 18th hole of St. Andrews.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he sends ones into the houses, and then Alexa steps up.
Yeah, Alexis steps up and stripes a drive, 40 feet on the green, which is perfect. So we're like, okay, now we need an eagle just to have the match. So we get up there, and what do we know? She rolls it right in for an eagle, and we're just like, wow, what a way to end! But happy for them that they got to pull it off.
Absolutely. Well, you're an incredible person to share that story, and I'm sure it'll make them happy when they hear it. But but I think you'll survive the crushing defeat of that match and move on to bigger and better things. But yeah, is that the first match that you've lost since the national championship?
No, unfortunately, it's not. At Muirfield, I had a tough day there in the alternate shot. Me and my partner struggled a little bit, but it's all been fun, all fun matches.
I'll let you go. Good catching up again. We'll do it again soon, I hope, and all the best for the rest of the summer.
Yep. Thank you so much for having me once again.
Thanks, Brandon. Good luck to you at Hoylake and as you embark on your professional career. Now let's get to the number 1 ranked amateur in the world, Cole Hammer. Welcome to the back of the range. How are you, sir?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ben. I'm excited to be here.
There are 3 guys that got that call on July 24th that immediately were selected to the U.S. Walker Cup team. Akshay Bhatia, Stu Hagestad, and as the number 1 ranked amateur in the world, I'm sure the number 1 call was to you. So I know it wasn't a shock that you were going to be getting selected early. Kind of got that out of the way, but can you maybe explain to listeners what the day was like when the phone rings from the USGA?
I can for sure. It was one of the best days in my golf career. There's no question about it. Just because I had known for a while that I was going to make the team, like based on rankings. It obviously, like, it was just awesome to know like that it was official on that day, and it was a cool call. I mean, they were just like, "Cole, you have made the Walker Cup team if you'll accept it," basically. And I was like, "Heck yeah, I'll accept it." So it was a special day. I was playing some golf with my dad in Colorado, so we got to kind of share that together. But it feels like a culmination of like 2 years of hard work, and it's really, it was cool to get the call along with two other guys kind of before the AM and get that out of the way.
I think I mentioned that to Akshay. I mentioned to Stu. I guess my question, knowing you're going to be on the team, but how much does that free you up just for the rest of the summer? I know you tried to defend at the Western, different course. We're going to get into that a little bit later, but how much does that free you up going into the USAM, knowing that you can just treat that list like any other tournament, even though it's the biggest amateur tournament in the world, but it really has no bearing on your Walker Cup status?
Yeah, it definitely takes a lot of pressure off. Just because like I'm not grinding to make the team. That it's not up in the air whether I'll make the team or not. I'm already set. So it would definitely be a lot different if I was still grinding to make the team. If I was on the bubble, I'm sure there would be some added pressure. But now I have the option to just go out there and kind of play my own game and not worry about a whole lot, which is nice. Being a golfer, you always kind of want to go out there and just play the way you know how and not put too much pressure on yourself. So kind of having this out of the way is going to be great for me.
I guess one of the things I was curious about too is going into the Western. I know you're trying to defend your title. It's at a different golf course, obviously. You won at Sunset Ridge. This one's at Point of Woods. What were your expectations going into the Western? I know it's the same tournament you won, but it's also a completely different golf course. Was there any thoughts about that?
Like you said, it was a completely different golf course, and it felt like a completely different tournament, honestly. Obviously, the Western was running it, and then it had the same feel, but just with it moving around, it just felt like a completely different tournament. With that being said, I mean, I hadn't played a tournament since the Northeast Dam, so it had been about a month, like a competitive break. So I might have been a little rusty in that first round, and it probably cost me a little bit. Missed the cut by one, which sucked. I'm not gonna lie, because I felt like I was starting to play well in that second round, and I felt like I could have potentially made a run like I did last year. But it's just a tough cut, and I mean, it was a good experience. I'm glad I had it going into the USAM. It kind of gave me some confidence because I saw myself play well coming down the stretch on the second round.
When I saw that, I just was like, you had to just been just seething, because I know you wanted to be right there with the match play. And what were some, I guess, just briefly, like what were some of the differences in that course as opposed to Sunset Ridge?
It was a little bit of a longer golf course. I think this one was, I don't remember how long it was, but Sunset Ridge was just basically a wedge fest, and Point of Woods was, I mean, there were some good solid golf holes out there where you're hitting long to mid irons into a bunch of the par fours. So it was a little bit different golf course. The greens were pretty much all at Point of Woods, whereas at Sunset Ridge they were bent. The rough was thicker this week at Point of Woods than it was at Sunset Ridge, so there was more penalty if you missed the fairway. And I don't know, this course was more tree line, so it was different. It was probably tougher as the scores showed. I think I medaled at like 23 under last year, and this year it was like 13, with it like the top 16 being at like 4 under. So it was a big change from this year to last year, but the Western is an awesome tournament, and part of the history of it is that it kind of moves around, or it has moved around for the last like 15 or 20 years. So you just kind of have to roll with the punches when you're switching golf courses.
Between the Western and the USAM, it seems like those are the last two spots really for people that are trying to make the Walker Cup team to really make a push. Saw a lot of players, not make match play. Saw a couple of the guys get in there, namely, Quade Cummins and Chandler Phillips and Ricky Castillo, some of the guys that are kind of on that short list that are making moves. Any conversations that you had with guys that were there? Because really, like I said, that's next to the last big spot where you're going to see everyone.
Or obviously the Walker Cup is a big topic of conversation among all the guys right now, because I mean it's coming down to the wire, and or nobody really knows what the USGA is thinking and where kind of everybody stands. So it's a nerve-wracking time, and I think everybody who was kind of on that bubble was really hoping to make match play and make a run. Obviously, like John Pock made match play and Quaid made match play, and I know Quaid was really excited to make match play after winning the Pac Coast a week ago, and so he's been on a good roll. And there's a bunch of guys that either just missed the first cut or made the second cut but didn't make match play, who are on the bubble as well. So nobody really in the short list made a deep run other than Ricky. So it's it'll be interesting to see what happens kind of this weekend in the decision process.
Yeah. And I know having, Captain Crosby out there at the Western, I'm sure that that probably just intensifies a little bit of the stress when, you're walking down the fairway and you look over and you see, well, that's the guy that has at least a say in whether or not I'm going to be on that team or not. But your conversations with him are probably a lot less stressful than others.
Oh yeah, they are. I've been lucky enough to kind of get to know him over the past 2 years. He kind of started watching me early last summer, and I got to spend a lot of time with him at the Walker Cup practice, so that was a lot of fun. And yeah, it's all our conversations are nice and laid back right now, which is a nice thing to have under my belt.
Well, and I've spoken to him briefly, and he is a little bit of a needler too, so he can have a little fun with you and be a little sarcastic at times. So I'm sure that's gonna transfer over once the entire team is set when you go over to Hoylake.
100%. He that's exactly what he was like at the practice session. He was needling us and telling us some funny stories. It was a good time. He's a great guy.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that's got to be fun. And also, he's been there. He's actually, he played Walker Cup in '83 at Royal Liverpool. Right. So I think that's just going to be a tremendous experience to have a captain like that. And obviously it's match play over there. It's alternate shot over there. I got to talk about the national championship run that you guys had, falling short to Stanford. But man, if anyone was watching that match between you and Wolf, I was shaking my head watching it. You beat him. What was it? 4-3. You beat the Matthew Wolf. I think you started off with 6-7 birdies in a row on the front nine.
Yeah, I think between the two of us, I think we had like 8 birdies in the first 6 holes. It was pretty insane, and I think I was 6 under through 7. Yeah, 6 under through 7 or 8, 6 under through 8, and which was pretty cool. And I'd putt for like 7 under through 9 on the 9th hole to put it that. But we played some great golf, and I think we both knew that our match was probably going to be the decider. Obviously, it turned out to be Stephen Trevoni's, but if our match had flipped the other way, Oklahoma State would have won. So it was a great match. And Matt and I have known each other for a long time, and it was kind of nice. We were like having fun out there, messing around with each other a little bit. So I mean, it was a great match, and there was some great golf out there. There's no question.
So I've spoken to some of the guys on the Oklahoma State side that were right there watching that final putt by Zach Bouchot that horseshoed out, and I gently ask about that putt, and it's obviously not something they're too thrilled to talk about. But on the other side, can you even? I mean, it puts you in the final match, but was it still just a shock when you saw that?
I was utterly shocked.
Because you don't wish that on. I mean, you don't wish that on anyone. I mean, you guys benefited.
It was dark. I mean, we were sitting on the edge of the green. We could barely even see the hole. There's just no time where you want to see a match end like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're probably not going to give them a 4-footer for a berth in the national championship, but at the same time, it's tough to see a match end that way. And then we were all shocked for the first few seconds, and then once we realized we were into the national championship match, we were excited, probably rightfully so. But it's tough to see or something like that happen. But obviously, it's golf, and stuff like that does happen, and guys miss short putts. So it was a tough moment for them, I'm sure. But it was a cool moment for us in the aftermath.
Absolutely. And then you go against Stanford, against guys that very well. Wu and Celinda and Shemp and the rest of the crew there. For your freshman season to be put in that spot to reach all the way to the national championship match, I mean, how much does that inspire you to get back for next year or the years to come?
It's insane how much I think all of us are kind of ready to roll now. We worked hard all season long. We didn't have our results weren't that great. So, I mean, we played well. We finished second a bunch, and we finally won our regional leading into NCAA. So we had some momentum there, but it just never seemed like we could break through in the regular season. And to see ourselves kind of play some great golf and get into a position to win a national championship our first year on campus was pretty special, and I think it's going to motivate us that much more going into this year. And I think it's great for the guys coming in like Travis Vick and Mason Gnome to kind of see what we're all about and kind of how we go about things. And I'm sure it'll give them some motivation to play well and kind of carry us back to the spot we were this past year.
When you see guys like Wolf and Hovland, Morikawa, and what they're doing on the PGA Tour now, is that something where you're like, man, I want to get out there just like them? Or do you kind of look at that and think, well, it's there waiting for me eventually, but I kind of dig being in college and I want to chase down a national championship. I mean, what are your thoughts on the fact that youth is kind of taking over the PGA Tour?
Yeah, there's no question about that. People have been asking me, like, are you surprised about what's going on? Like, they're telling me, everybody's saying, wow, I'm shocked that Wolf and Morikawa are doing what they're doing. I'm like, you know what? I'm just really not. Like, I feel like it was only a matter of time until these guys were winning, and obviously it probably happened sooner than most people expected. But I am not surprised at all that about what's happened with those 3 or 4 guys. So the thought obviously crosses my mind that, dang, like I was just playing with them a month ago, and now they're out winning on the PGA Tour. I definitely think about like, oh, dang, I could be doing that too. But at the same time, it's like, I mean, I love where I'm at in college, and I wouldn't want to trade that for that opportunity like right now. So I'm happy with where I'm at. There's no question. And where we finished last year in the national championship, it has motivated all of us to kind of get back there. That's my main goal leading into this coming year. So,
all right, so we're going to let you go. We're going to get you ready for the U.S. Amateur. You made the semifinals last year, obviously in the U.S. Am. So I know you're trying to repeat that, or at least exceed that and get to the finals. Any thoughts on the fact that the winner of the U.S. Amateur will play 2 rounds of golf at the Masters next year with Tiger Woods?
Oh, I'd completely forgotten about that. That's pretty special. I mean, there's no 2 ways about it. Tiger has transcended this game that we play, and to have the opportunity to win an amateur event and get to play with him and arguably the biggest tournament in the world is pretty cool. I mean, I'm laughing about it right now. I can't even imagine it. But
it's kind of funny. You're not the first one that did not cross their mind, which is shocking to me, because as soon as I saw that happen, I was like, oh, U.S. Am Champ is playing 2 rounds next April with Tiger Woods.
You know what? Yeah, I mean, I knew that was going to happen. I mean, I had forgotten about it. So, I mean, I'm just kind of focused on the USAM and kind of doing my thing there. But obviously, everything that comes with a USAM title is pretty cool. And honestly, it doesn't matter who you're playing with if you win the USAM. But playing with Tiger would be off the charts.
Well, we'll get you out. By the way, what are your lodging? You're going to be a sophomore at Texas. What are you working on this summer, lodging wise, to get yourself ready for next year at Texas? What is the situation going to be for you next year? I'm assuming you're not in the dorms.
I am not in the dorms. I ran away from the dorms as fast as I could this past year. Well, we were in an apartment, but it felt like a dorm towards the end of the year, just because it was basically the opposite of a clean apartment. So
nice.
We have the opportunity to start over at this new house where me, Pearson, Cootie, and Will Thompson are living. So we're going to have a lot of fun with it. It's just off North Campus. A couple of guys on the team had a house like 2 doors down from it last year. And we were trying to get it to where we would have this new house and they would still be in the other house 2 doors down. But they ended up losing it because they couldn't find a 4th guy to fill the room. So we are kind of on our own on in our new house. So we're excited for it. We have started to move in a little bit. I'm trying to figure out the whole room situation right now, but it's going to be a blast. We're going to we'll have a good time with it. There's no question about that.
I mean, what are the necessities? I mean, obviously you need the couch, you need the bed, you need all that sort of thing. But what are like the necessities for a proper golf house?
I feel like we got to have some like retro golf like posters around the living room.
Okay.
We're trying to. I mean, it's obviously going to be a golf house, but we're trying to make it like not like you walk in. I don't want to walk in and smell golf, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
So we're kind of working on that right now. It's a work in progress. I'm the only one who's seen the house out of us three, or been into the house out of us three. So as soon as we get there, we'll kind of figure it out a little more. But we'll definitely have a dartboard in there somewhere, hanging up on the wall, which will be good for killing some time or whatever. And we got the couch set up, and it's gonna be good whichever way we decide to dice it up.
So it's probably not going to be like an OU dartboard, or would that maybe fit?
You know what? It probably would fit, except we do not have an OU dartboard, nor are we in the market for one.
Right.
I got one at the USAM last year that says US Amateur at Pebble Beach, which is it's kind of sweet. So we'll hang that in the living room, and we destroyed it last year, so we'll keep that trend going.
Nice. Well, I know you're getting ready for USAM next week, and then obviously jumping across the pond to the Walker Cup. So best of luck. Congrats on all your success these past 2 years. Well deserved.
I appreciate it, Ben. Thanks. Thanks for having me on, as always.
And there you have it. The Road to Hoylake is complete. I'd like to thank you all for listening to this series. Don't forget, subscribe at Apple Podcast and Spotify. Everything you need is in the show notes of this episode. We'll see you next time here at the back of the range.